What's up, everybody? Greg Chapman back again with another edition of the Gentleman Gorilla Small Business Marketing Podcast. Today, I am joined by an expert cannabis grower and a soil, enthusiast or knowledgeable expert. Randall Patten with the Torba Group. Randall, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about the Torba Group and what you do with them?
I'm Randall Patten. Like I said, I founded the Torba Group 3 years ago. About 2 years ago, actually, really. We're a consulting company that really was starting out directed towards cannabis-related businesses. It's kind of evolved into agriculture in general. We have a few different projects we work with just regarding just plants in general. So
Nice.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so I know that you used to work for a pretty big cannabis company in the area. You were one of the founders of them. And then I imagine before that you've been growing and working in the dirt as well. Is this something that has just been a part of you your whole life? Is this kind of a more newfound...
The cannabis?
It's just like having a green thumb, gardening, growing, farming.
Yeah, kicked in. I learned about it at around 18 when I started to consume cannabis and realized why buy it when I can grow it, to be quite frank, and then realized I could also sell it. So I started growing cannabis and instantly realized, I had a green thumb, but I just enjoyed plants. I've taken that knowledge or that passion and, I collect rare endangered cycads and palm trees and other types of plants as well.
Cycads?
Cycads.
What are cycads?
Cycads they're technically probably the oldest living plant on the planet. They're here from the Mesozoic era. They're here before dinosaurs. So they call them living fossils. They're basically a very ancient, just plant species that originated in Africa and they're on all the continents. But so I collect those and propagate them and create new plants to kind of keep these things alive on the planet. Is kind of just something to do while I'm on this experience of life right now. So
nice. Is there, would I know what a cycad is if I saw it? Is it pretty recognizable, or is it kind of just blends in with the rest of plants?
If you've seen a sago palm is actually not a palm tree, it's a cycad. So sago palms are pretty common in San Diego, so if people are familiar with the sago palm.
Which one are those? I know there's dozens of kinds of palms.
Yeah, like I said, it's a cycad, not a palm. It differentiates in the flowering. Cycads are actually in the conifer family, so when they flower, they're like a pine, like a cone. They're quite used in landscape all over, especially Cycas revoluta, which is the sago palm. But
is that the one where, right at the end of its life cycle, it has a stalk that shoots straight up 30 feet?
Those are agaves.
Are they?
Yeah, agaves, and those are monocarpic, so they flower once and then die. Cycads do not. They'll keep cranking along as they flower. They'll flower and keep growing, and they're pretty hardy plants. They're pretty bulletproof. So something fun that I've spent my time with in life, and just, it's neat. I have some plants that are extinct in nature that are no longer left in the wild, so I have them in my house and propagate them. It's something that my soul likes to do, apparently. So.
It's kind of an interesting aspect. It's completely endangered or extinct, you said?
Yeah.
So you have literally the last living plants, or at least
they're in collections. So they're propagated, and there might be numerous of them in collections. But in the wild, where they originally originated, there no more left. Excuse me, none left. As certain colonies are gone. So
is it just from human expansion, or because of the climate's changing? Or they just don't naturally really live anymore outside of special circumstances?
I think a lot of it generally, especially the African stuff, came to farming. When they'd come to plow the fields, they just ripped these cycads out, and obviously some human collection even. Some of the rare colonies, people would go and poach and steal them really to put in their collection. A lot of the African plants are microchipped, so everyone's got a number so they can wave a wand and keep track of them. They're on CITES 1, appendix, blob, whatever the hell. They're all protected like black pandas and rhinos and some of those species, but they're just plants. So not all of the cycads are, but a lot of the encephalitis, the African cycads are. So
I had no idea that there was such a, technological force behind protecting plants. So you don't really think about being able to chip a plant, I guess.
Yeah, they drill a hole, put a little microchip in there so they're numbered and track them. Of course, people still unfortunately poach those and stuff. There's a big black market, unfortunately, that thrives, I guess, around the world. People collect them and sell them. So
I mean, I guess that makes sense. I don't know.
anything of value people want, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, oh, I want one of those. I got to be the guy that has the last one, which instead of, which is obviously a very selfish way to look at, the plant. Whereas, I mean, if you wanted to look at it for the worldwide, I think I get keeping them in collections to propagate them like I'm doing to keep them around, And at the end of the day, I could also say that maybe if there's only one left in wild, it makes more sense to put in a garden where you can propagate it to keep them around. Obviously, just going through the proper channels and not going out and stealing the thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they had to do with the pandas, right?
I think so,
They had to
that's
basically
right.
take them out of the wild and try and breed them
Yeah.
because they were just dying on their own. They were too far apart to breed or something
Yeah,
like that.
California condors, I'm sure, I'm sure there's a point where, unfortunately, when, humans do have to interject, I guess, occasionally at times to bring things back, So I think if the intention's right behind it, then it's okay.
And I feel like I've been seeing a lot of animals being taken off of the endangered list that we really focused on bringing back. Like
I don't know, to be quite frank. I haven't paid much attention to it, so.
I don't know. I know like the killer whales numbers are going up.
Yeah.
The bald eagle, I think that was to a point where it was like within like 10.
Okay.
It was
Yeah,
like single
that.
digits
Right.
left. I think in like the 90s, people were
Right.
just shooting the shit out of them.
Yeah, it's sad. It's a bummer. I wish
It is.
people paid a little more attention to these things, but.
Right. But people are starting to wake up and
Indeed.
kind of understand that the plants and the animals are
Extensions of ourselves.
important.
Oh, exactly.
It's not humans versus the world anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of having to be the world with the world.
Yeah, start taking care of each other instead of taking from each other, right?
Exactly.
So it's important, definitely. Very important, that's for sure.
Right. So you said you got into it when you were 18. Would you pretty much just kind of start in your own backyard? Did you get a job randomly?
Well, to be honest, I was sitting there bored one day and decided to just start smoking cannabis on my own. And I always had an entrepreneur gene in me. Apparently, my dad was self-employed. I hustled candy in middle school, making like $50 a day selling blow pops, Jolly Ranchers, right, And so, as I decided to just literally smoke cannabis on my own with zero peer pressure. I heard the voice say, start smoking cannabis. So I listened to it, called a few friends. My entrepreneur gene kicked in pretty quick and realized, why am I buying this? I shouldn't have to pay for it, So, of course, I went into selling cannabis, but within a month I realized, well, better yet, why am I even buying this when I could just grow it? So that's how I got my green thumb started. But I think I was 18. I grew like one plant at my mom's house. Then next year I ended up dating a girl that lived out in Valley Center, which was wide open, and her dad was a cannabis consumer, so he let me really go off. And then at the time I was working for my dad, who owned a convenience store, so everybody knew me as the owner's son, and one of the customers was willing to use his house as an indoor grow. So even though I was only 19, I guess, kind of opened the doors because they knew I wasn't gonna go running off and bail. I couldn't, So ended up, I think, renting the first house to grow out, and I was like, might have been 19 still, or 20. So I had my first indoor grow, and I guess that would have been 95.
Damn.
And to be honest, the first crop I ever did killed it, and I just was blessed to, I don't know, it's what I do. It's just my divine gift, I guess, that's given to me to grow plants. So it's fun. I enjoy it.
So it's pretty lucky that you got to find that so early in life.
Yeah, and funny part is I'm going to college, not knowing what the hell I'm going to do when I grow up, and I'm growing cannabis, and I'm dealing cannabis, and I'm going to school not knowing what to do, and 25 years later, I'm still growing cannabis, so, it was right in front of me all along,
That is fun. It's, God, it's crazy. Now that, like my business partner, Joanne, she's working on putting together a cannabis course for like SDSU.
Okay,
Like,
awesome.
yeah.
It's neat. It's evolving. It's coming into the light.
It's come so far from, because in 94, 95, that was right when First Medical went, right, in California?
96 was Prop 215 started in '96, and then it turned into Bill 420, which I think was more like 2002. But I think the original the medical marijuana program was '96, Prop 215, I believe it was, and then took a few years of evolution of getting creative with it to do it properly, then try and do it for, under the collective, the collective diagram that we kind of everyone started to implement to try to be legal and try to do it right to provide medicine for patients. So that, I think it was 2002 when the SB 420 was written and came out, which then allowed doctors to recommend cannabis and obtain collectives and have collective groups to grow their plants for them. So we were able to basically take their recommendation and become their caregiver, so to speak, and cultivate medicine for as many people as you signed up for your collective. So that's how we were trying to do it right back then. I guess, we were doing and we were creating it as we went, obviously. Some people more than others. Obviously, Steve D'Angelo at the time was huge on that forefront. I was just more, I guess, one of the foot soldiers at the time, trying to take it out and use it and work it and prove it in courts, and it worked for the most part. Yeah, absolutely. So it was always, I've always been my whole life's been the Wild West, to be quite frank. So it's figuring things out's what I do, apparently. I don't know.
So you pretty much just stepped right into that medical scene.
Yeah.
Started growing, and then a couple of years later, the medical dispensaries popped up.
Yeah, medical dispensaries. Actually, a guy I grew up with went to my high school, opened, I think, the first dispensary. I think it could have been pre-Harbor side even. It was like in Vista, actually, believe it or not. And I remember him opening that up, and this was like way back, man. And he ended up obviously getting shut down, and and then the games began. The cat and mouse games open up, get cease and assist. But it was a beautiful system. Cease and assist isn't, criminal. So you just pay a fine and you stay open. And to be honest, you made enough money to pay the fine in the meantime, so you just paid to play, And that's kind of the system it was played for a long time. So it was okay. It was a fair trade. We were able to provide medicine. The city got money, and everyone was happy. I mean, it's a win-win, right?
Right. What was it like? Because I imagine for a while it was fairly underground, and then I know at one point it became like a very public, professionally run business for you.
Yeah.
What was it like, kind of taking it from being basically your hobby that made money to we're doing this for real? Because I imagine that was a pretty big leap.
Yeah, that was huge, man. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I mean, it was exactly what I needed. It was beautiful. Well, even what we were just spoke about, up until it really took about till 2008 or 9 to really see the collectives and the dispensaries really become a common method for that prop or SB 420. And then so we ran with that model, I guess, up until. I mean, I think it, technically still going a little bit, but till about 2015 is when I was looking at, I don't know, I guess just the industry and where it was going, and happened to have a brother-in-law with a Harvard MBA, and thought I would ask him to be my landlord, and went to him and was like, hey brother, you want to buy buildings and be my landlord? I'll pay you great rent and be good return, and not quite realizing what his skill set was as business. He picked my brain for 3 days. We put together a business plan, and at the end we ended up, actually at the end he's like, give me a week. So I left, went home from Santa Barbara, went back to San Diego. Called me a week later. He's like, yeah man, I don't want to buy you buildings, sorry. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, thanks for your time. He's like, no man, we're gonna start a company. So I'm like, okay, shit, let's do this.
Even better,
yeah. I mean, so a few months later we came up with the name Candescent. And basically I think Desert Hot Springs was the first municipality in California to legalize large-scale cultivation, and I think we were the third conditional use permit, which basically allowed us to start construction, but we got the first certificate of occupancy, so it was kind of a milestone, I guess. That was kind of cool to say. We were technically, I guess, the first legal licensed cultivator in a municipality in California, so that was kind of neat. Yeah, and Candescent, just turned into a really beautiful journey that I needed to go through. It was a lot of learning, a lot of lessons. It was probably it was a paid internship, really. It was just the experience that really allowed me to find myself in life and figure out who and what I want to be for, the rest of this journey and the industry. So it was fun, but I only lasted till 2017 when I left. Just had a lot of stress, a lot of different things, medical reasons. I went on medical leave, and then in March, and then kind of by June, we kind of got to a point where we agreed I wasn't going to go back. So I just left in June and just really got my health issues that I had built up over my life. A lot of it was just stuff I built up my whole life that has finally manifested at that time, with that final stress ball of being in a whole new world that was legal, and it was all beautiful and fun, but it came with a whole lot of learning and discomfort. And at the time I didn't have the personal skills to understand discomfort and what was going on, so it kind of crashed me, to be quite frank, and
Yeah.
really put me in a spot where I had to really reflect on this whole my life and what I wanted to do here. So it was beautiful, actually. It's good. Incandescent's still doing great, so it's neat to see a creation, still strong in the industry, and I hope the best for them and all that. I'm no longer part of it, so, but I hope that hope they kill it,
Yeah, I mean, they're very, I feel like they're one of the few brands that got their message right, their branding right.
Yeah.
Because they kind of created the, I guess what would you call them? Like, they took away like the strains,
Right.
and then just used like the effects
Right.
as like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
branding.
Yeah.
And I think that really struck a chord with a lot of people.
Yeah,
And
well,
it's also set a tone in the industry for how to brand.
yeah, absolutely, and truthfully, that's something where Adrian picked, Incandescent's basically my mind put into reality my life's work that really took from my typical customer base to what I learned through all the processes of owning dispensaries. And so when Adrian and I were speaking, for him to wrap his mind around it, honestly, it wasn't rocket science, man. Everyone would come into the dispensary and be like, hey, we want something that makes us sleep. We want something that makes us clean up, and we want something that makes us creative. So I just listened to what I heard through years of experience. I wasn't in the dispensaries personally, but the gentlemen that were, managing and running them for us would give me the feedback, and honestly, it just seemed like a no-brainer, because that's really all everyone would come in to and ask the bud tender, how do I want to feel, or give me something to feel this way. So honestly, I just thought it was giving them what they wanted, to be quite frank.
I mean, that's good business, right?
Yeah,
Find out what they want and then give it to them.
Absolutely.
That's, I mean, I imagine that's got to be like a very interesting realization and transition, kind of having everything that you've built for, God, almost 20 years, and then realizing that it's not what's for you anymore.
Yeah, it was, it was at the time, it was really hard on me, because I'm like sitting there, most people like, oh, your dream comes true. Well, there's this old saying that be careful what you wish for, you might get it.
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be true in life all the time, to be quite frank. I find life to be an oxymoron, to be really honest.
Pretty much daily.
All day, every day. I can laugh at it now, though. Before, I didn't have that skill set when I left Canada, right? So I learned that along the way now. That this is something I picked up since. But at the end of the day, it's all good. I don't have a judgment in me. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. I love my brother-in-law. It's just the way I do things, the way he do things was different. That doesn't make it anything except for that's just not how I roll with certain things. Things I wanted to do. It's really just, it's all life sometimes, is getting into a spot and realizing, okay, cool. This is I have a little bit of different ideas what I like to do. He's got his. No hard feelings. Let's just move forward and keep trucking,
Yeah.
But
and I mean, you've moved on to, now you've started a new business over the last couple of years, right?
yeah, after that, after I left Candescent, I really took about 2 years off.
Okay.
And just found myself, I guess you could say. So when I met you in that little window,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it was just cool. So I took 2 years off. I took from 2017 to really about 2019-ish, 2.5, really, to just ride my bike and get my health back. Reflect on everything I wanted to do in the future and what I was about and my mission or my purpose, and you know, my goals or what I wanted to accomplish and how I wanted to accomplish them. And so in 2000, I guess it would have been about 19, we started. I might have started Torbus in 18, thinking I was ready for work, but I wasn't yet. And I think we started it, but you know, I was still kind of on I call it my good one of going through I guess a transition of mindset that was actually quite brutal. So I'm sitting thinking I'm ready, but I was nowhere near ready. Or the universe wasn't ready, I should say.
That's
know?
exactly.
I thought I was ready, but the universe wasn't.
That's exactly what happened with the Gentleman Gorilla too.
Yeah.
I launched it 3.5 years ago, but it took until about a year ago till it really started to catch. Not just in the world, but like with myself too. Like what it was supposed to be.
Right. Yeah, I hear you, man. And that's the trippy part, right? Because it's like, you know, I went through this beautiful year and a half of just, it was quite brutal at times, to be quite frank, you know, but it was amazing at the same time to find this whole new way of life, so to speak, of, you know, seeing the world in a whole new way. I was excited to get out in the world and, you know, go out there, but you know what the lesson was the way I used to roll didn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went out and I used to be able to make it rain, man, all day long. I could do anything I wanted my whole life. And then after I left Candescent, I was like, okay, I'm ready to get back out. And everything I tried wouldn't work, you know, and nothing I tried to do would materialize. And it was trip because I never had that problem, but other synchronistic things would show up on their own that I never looked for that have become now my focus, that I'm like, I'm into it long enough now to be like, oh, okay. But at this point,
So it's basically like
works in a trickle.
You evolved past like what you knew of yourself kind of before realizing it. So like you were trying to be the old you and you had changed.
Right.
And you didn't realize yet how you had changed.
Well, I kind of think I knew how I changed, but I didn't realize the method to the new way of working, you know? So the way I used to roll, you know, just making things happen worked in my younger life. So I don't know, you know, it's really hard to explain and put into words. It's just anything I tried to do, nothing would go right in human words. It was perfect in the spiritual sense, which of course, you know, that's where another oxymoron is, right? So, and at the end of the day, I realized, okay, I just focus on my spiritual growth, and to be quite frank, anything in the material world just takes care of itself. So, you know.
I found that to be true for sure. I think that the more effort you put into taking care of your mind, body, and soul, the more whatever happens to you in life just unfolds the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, it feels
almost without effort.
It feels pre-written.
Yeah.
To be quite frank.
Yeah.
And when I look back on life, I feel like I think it was always pre-written. I just thought I had a lot more role in it for a while. But I look back and I'm old enough now to crack up at all the dots that, oh wow, I just happened to start doing this. So I just happened to know the first BC guy. I happened to be the first guy I knew who grew indoor. I just happened to say, I'm like, okay, what's going on here?
There's too many little pieces lining up for it to be too much of a coincidence.
No such thing as coincidence.
No. Right. So I'm curious, because you seem to me as a person that has kind of successfully navigated through your own spiritual journey, kind of reforming yourself is to align more with who you are actually, like deep down.
Yeah,
like
real deep.
Yeah. So like you dove down, you found out like what your base operating system is, and then now you're starting to implement it in life. I'm kind of curious what you did for yourself to be able to look inward and to really start listening to yourself, because I know that's a problem that a lot of people have, is like, how do you find those pieces of yourself?
A lot of effort, I won't lie. I mean, I put in the work, you know what I mean? It didn't just happen. It was a process. I was blessed to be put in a position to have the time on my hands and, you know, not lose everything and have my bills covered while I was able to. And I think that only happened because I was fully focusing on myself, and because I fully focused on myself, I was taken care of when I look back, because I think if I didn't focus on that, I probably would have kept losing things. But I was somehow blessed enough to be aware that maybe I should start working on myself because everything's going away. You know, it started out when I left, honestly, when I left Candescent on medical leave, and I really looked at myself and really, really reflected. The first thing I went out and did was get a mountain bike because I knew to deal with my sleep apnea and some of my medical issues. It was going to take a few months to get through the insurance process. So I got a bike and started working out again, getting cardio and taking care of my temple, my body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting that going. And then I had some issues with, I had sleep apnea real bad. When I did my sleep study, they were like, dude, I don't know how you're alive, you barely breathe, right? And I had that for like 8 or 10 years. So, when you deplete your brain or your supercomputer of oxygen for that long, you're a fucking zombie, to be quite frank. I hate the part of my language, but that's the only way to describe it. It is a fucking zombie. So I was in a real bad mental spot through that. So I did that. And then as I addressed those initial layers, so to speak, I also got to the point where I realized maybe the alcohol and these other substances I've been participating with aren't needed as well. And I actually ended up, quitting drinking and cannabis use. And as I did that, I kind of started to realize, okay, so I'm doing all these things, I'm working on myself. And then I decided somewhere in there to, I don't know, it's so funny because when it's the same story. It's like all of a sudden I'm sitting there and something told me start meditating, and I never really meditated in my whole life, but I heard, you need to meditate, so I started meditating. Then, you're in meditation and you just hear these things that I used to think it was me thinking them. Now I realize it's just me hearing, and so I'm listening and I'm hearing like the question, who am I? Why am I here? That typical, and then, I started to search earnestly, I guess you could say it, seek with all your might, and the more I looked, man, the more just everything just started like opening up, I could say, and the more I started reading and the more I started doing this, and then it got to a point where like, what the fuck's going on? I got to keep going, and it really, you're becoming the vacuum, man, or truthfully, once you're in it, you're not coming out, in my opinion. I don't, if you chose to something, it'd be, I don't know why you ever would, so I just started searching and reading and looking into everything and really realizing truthfully, there's really only one underlying story that manifests through a zillion things on the planet, and once you kind of tap into that awareness, it's all around you when you start paying attention. And I guess when it's time to find, you find it, because it's kind of hard not to be honest, if you're paying attention. So I just read a lot and just kept my meditation, and as I got those things in order, I realized there's then, after the drinking and the cannabis use and just the other medical things, just getting my balance, there's a lot of other human conditions that we've been conditioned or programmed our whole life into forgetting who we are, man, and then addressing all those. And it's like a daily chore, but it's a trip, man, just doing the inner work, really. Just kept doing the inner work and doing the inner work and doing the inner work, and getting to a play of at least starting to see the signs and following the signs and putting in the time and reading and being blessed to have the time to do that for literally 24/7 for 2-3 years, where that's all I did was self-work. Didn't even really want to come back to the industry. I was fine never working again. I was completely okay with what I found and was happy being there. It was a really beautiful place of renunciation, realizing you really don't need anything on this planet. Mm-hmm. It's really all things we were told we needed, so to speak. And to find, I could sit there and laugh and go, wow, man, I was a monkey. I got all this shit they told me I needed. It's like, I don't need any of it, So it's like I go get stuck chasing my tail thinking I have to have all this material bullshit. But none of it fills the hole inside of happiness. The only thing that does that is yourself and, and finding yourself. So yeah, it was intriguing a few years, that was, honestly, it was really quite brutal at the time. I mean, I guess I'll go into the whole, winter solstice of 2017 is kind of had this Kundalini, I guess what they would call a Kundalini awakening experience, and my world changed in one day. It wasn't a slow thing. It was literally a 2-day window where all of a sudden I was psychotic, I thought, but then of course everybody started showing up to guide me through it. So it was a beautiful, crazy time. I don't know, honestly, it's hard to talk about just because it's like, wow, blows my mind, blows my mind.
I don't think it's meant to be an easy experience.
Yeah.
I think that it's like, for me, like, I came from just such a general comfortable background, just, you know, middle class suburbs, good education, all that shit.
Comfortable. Keyword,
Yeah,
huh? No growth and comfort.
I felt like I didn't know anything about myself.
Right.
And so so what I did was like I intentionally put myself on the bottom in like every way possible. Financially, new city, like minimum wage job, like just everything, and like forced myself to have nothing for a while.
Yeah, and that's where me and you balance, because I had too much fear to ever do that. You know what I mean? Definitely, I would have never made those choices. That's like why I think like big reason why I did the cannabis, because I made a lot of money really easy. In my comfort zone, you know, it's such a weird oxymoron. I didn't want to be out of my comfort zone for a long time, you know, and then doing the candescent thing was probably the first time I actually really got out of my comfort zone in a way to really deal with all my shadows, so to speak, and what I needed to see. So I hear you, man, but good on you for making that conscious decision. Yeah. I couldn't. It had to be forced upon me.
I mean, I feel like mine was kind of forced upon me in a way. Like, because I kept building and building and building, but kept running into brick wall, brick wall, brick wall. And I realized that something wasn't adding up and I needed to do like a base reset. Yeah. Otherwise, I would keep just failing.
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't doing things.
Well, you're never failing. You're always learning.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that. Well, I mean, I still want to stick with the word failure. I just think that people's understanding of what the word failure means is a little bit different to different people.
Yeah.
To me, it's failure means lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it didn't used to, but now I understand.
Exactly. It takes a while to get that one.
You know,
that's for sure,
like,
brother.
Like it doesn't. It used to be like if I lost a client or someone decided not to sign with me or anything just didn't go the way it was planned. It was like, well, fuck, burn it all down. Like, and now it's like, no, I get it. Like, we're just not.
Yeah, well,
it's not our time.
I guess I reflect that in you, because honestly, I didn't know what failure was most of my life, because I honestly never felt like I failed. Everything just went really well for me, and honestly, I don't know why it still worked with how I was, but it always really worked out for me. I didn't really know what failure. I literally could make anything happen, but you know, as somebody very near and dear, close, just recently told me, is I was able to take a lot of things within me, those cords of fear or confidence or separateness, and I was able to stash them so deep down inside. I actually I was able to navigate the world in a pretty good way, even though they were still in there, because I put them so far behind that I didn't know they were there, and I forgot about them. So part of my life I worked really good, you know, and then they all had to come out at some point, man.
Right. Yeah, mine would come out like always at the key moments in some form of like self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage, bro. Keep beautiful word. Two words, actually.
It would be like, why do I keep doing this to myself?
Yeah,
and
right.
It ended up always being like, this isn't what you're meant to do.
Right. Yeah. It's like thinking we know better, you know. But at the time, those are all lessons we have to go through. It's cool you're able to see that. It's like the old analogy, you know, it's the definition of insanity: banging your head into the wall or doing the same thing, expecting different results, right? You know,
exactly.
So the fact that you're able to recognize that. Some people never get out of it, man. It's sad. I still see that so often in society and in the world. But I can't judge, man. Some people are very content doing that, and that's not my journey. So.
Yep. It's I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The world is much more difficult once you see outside the rules, outside the constructs of man, I guess.
Yeah, the conditioning that's been layered,
yeah.
I call it, in my opinion, I call it the conditioning, the layers that have been placed on that universal mind that it's a mind construct that they keep themselves in, right? That we all did, for a long time.
There's steps to success within that construct.
Like
moderate success. But
yeah.
Like,
success in
comfortability.
Success in the material world, right?
Exactly. So, but yeah, then once you break through that, you're like, fuck, like this is pure chaos.
Yeah.
And then you almost need to get to a point, which can only come over time, when you start to see that everything happens exactly when it's supposed to, and always right in time for when you need it. Exactly.
Yeah, that gets to be one of the trippy ones. Yeah. took me a few years to get my mindset around it. Well, that's what I was getting at with a few years, like and when I used to be able to make anything happen and not. It's and to be honest, to this day, really all I do all day, every day is just behold the world and collect data and watch it, and then figure out where at some point I want to really interject myself, or if I ever want to interject myself, I'm not sure yet. I literally just watch it, and I also know that it's all reflection, right? So the more inner work we do, it should just all dissolve at some point anyway. So the more of us we get together and like-minded people, get into a mindset that can dissolve a lot of those old constructs, and it's that powerful, right?
That's exactly it. And I think kind of as far as business goes is it changes your mindset on what kind of business you want to do from
right.
from basically being something of a profit model that attributes to just a capitalistic system of make a product, sell a product, make your money, spend your money, like just that system, to starting a business that is actually intentional in bettering the world or a community at some point.
Absolutely.
And not even for now, but for
generations.
In the future.
Yeah, generational.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's a beautiful statement, man, what you just said. It's super true. It went from, or you could make it simplicity and I went from selfish to selfless,
Yeah. Like for myself, it went from like doing marketing and sales to teaching other people how to get their own power through their businesses.
Yeah, you could give them the fish, or you could teach them how to fish.
Exactly. Right? And for you, I know that now you're working on a new project, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so this is the Torba group, right?
Yeah. So it was actually, when I was in my little state of being a few years ago, I was really not really ready. Like I had shared, I was completely content moving to Himalayas and living with monks, to be quite frank with you.
Which I want to do for like at least 6 months of my life.
I'll join you, brother.
6 months of silence sounds wonderful.
It sounds so beautiful, right? I try to live it every day, but then we get into these situations, and I understand part of the show is speaking, so we're doing that. But you actually hear so much more when you're just listening all day. Mm-hmm. It becomes really beautiful. It's funny. It's great, actually. So I hear you. We're going to do that.
Hell yeah.
2 years ago when I was really not in a point of even wanting to do anything, my son's friend in high school, they're still seniors, he told his dad, I guess, that I was in the cannabis industry. And they had this paramagnetic volcanic foamed rock. And they were like, oh, we got this soil, we got this fertilizer, and they weren't even really sure what they had, to be honest, but they just were like, yeah, it's paramagnetic volcanic foamed rock. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever.
All right.
sweet. At that point, one of the big learning curves, first off, most of the products in the cannabis industry are a joke, to be wrong. It's been like that. The cannabis the industry, the picks and shovels is a lot of obviously the industry. Most of the products sold aren't needed. It's and on top of it, they're mostly chemical-based ways that take everything out of homeostasis and really don't help much. They might help your yields a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're not beneficial. So they came to me with this rock, and I was, I'm used to hearing all these, hey, we got the best this. We got magic water, even magic water is going around now for people who haven't heard that one, magic water, and they're like, we got this like magic rock, right? And I'm like, okay, so I ignored them for a while, to be honest. I had a few meetings. They were nice guys. And at that time I was already reading all my books on everything, all day, every day, quantum physics, Bhagavad Gita. You name it. I was just reading, tapping into anything and everything all day long, reading tons of stuff. So, about 4 or 5 months after meeting them, they kept calling me and reaching out, and I'm just like, okay, maybe this is one of those signs I'm supposed to be paying attention to, because most people wouldn't keep calling you this much when you're just ignoring them. So I ordered these. A couple books from Dr. Philip Callahan, who's he was a PhD entomologist, but he kind of discovered that soils that were high in paramagnetic readings stimulated the biology, like basically boosting the soil food webs, low energy organic system, and keeping it thriving. So as I got these books, it only took me about 5 or 10 pages to go, oh, wow, okay, never mind, I know why I'm here, And, the guy was really more of a spiritualist, naturalist, than he was a scientist, but he was smart enough to go get a title, so he could play in the Matrix, and someone would take him serious, So give the guy some credit of learning how to interject him into a system, but with the right intentions behind himself, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I read the books, I really was like, oh, okay, I get this. I grew hydroponic rock wool cannabis for my whole life with chemicals, and I'm looking at this whole process, going, oh wow, you could create these regenerative living soil food webs with this stimulated frequency frequency that connects everything that's penetrating into this biology, which is what this paramagnetic attracts, so to speak. And basically, you do chemical-free farming, and then I started reaching out. Of course, I happen to have a few buddies that had been working on it 10 years, so I had some good resources to tap into and talk to them, and they're like, oh, no, man, we're showing first-hand results, I'm getting our soil food webs dialed in, your plant, becomes balanced, in my readings, I realized, I learned that, when a plant's in homeostasis, it doesn't ferment, releasing ethanols and ammonias, which attracts insects, so when you bring them back to balance, they no longer attract the insects, so you don't need the insecticides anymore. So obviously adding chemicals it's like the pendulum. The first pendulum swings the chemical nutrients. The second pendulum swings because now they attract insects. You place pesticide, and you're just batting shit back and forth the way that people were trained for a long time. Little to know, of course, that Mother Nature has a way of doing everything without any of it. But of course, it doesn't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So. But we have a system that's been educated for a long time on these chemicals and what they're for, and that's what's been trained in the colleges for farmers, and that's all they know. So went down this whole wormhole of soils because of this company. Cinderite is the name of the company it ended up becoming, and decided that I could stand behind this project. I guess, to be quite frank, this is something I can stand behind, and I feel good about standing behind, and the reasons is, the mission feels good, So I really put a lot of education time into reading about soils. I'm someone I like to learn a lot, but I also realize there's a point to where you hand off. So I got some buddies who that's all they do all day, and that's where I kind of trust them from there on out. Because I guess the word that could be used in Western society might be ADD. I just get bored easy, and I like to learn a lot. So one thing bores me quick. So I could get to a level where I could wrap my mind around it completely. Mm-hmm. But at some point, if somebody really that's what they want to do for a living, more power to them, because I can't do one thing. So
I'm the same way.
Yeah,
I'm very much the same way. I get it.
It's like, great. I want to learn about everything on the planet almost, but then I kind of realize the more I learn, the more it's all the same thing. So I really am kind of just it's. Okay, so there's one fractal that seems to show up everywhere. So, I need to become a specialist on all that.
Right.
There's only one thing to really become a specialist at.
Well, it's basically yourself, I feel like.
Yeah. Yourself, exactly, right? Know thyself, know all the secrets of the universe, so they say. Appears to be pretty true.
I feel like it pretty much is.
Yeah.
So how are you implementing the soil now? Is it so you're turning it into an actual business now, right?
Well, so Torba Consult, we're technically consultants of Cinderite, so I don't know really. I don't like titles. I think they sometimes call me director of cultivation, but whatever. So really I guess really what we've done, my partner works with the CEO on the business aspect, and then I work really setting up all the plant-based kind of foundations for kind of the mission and the technical support type of things, how we're going to use it, where we use it, what it does, kind of getting the message out. I guess creating the message and making it available for the world, I guess is what you could say. So I've been working on that a lot the last few years. So we're just it's fairly new. We've just been, I think it started 3 years ago, and anything, like I said, anything worth a damn takes a while, to be honest. I'm realizing now. So, and when you're really, I'm learning a lot about this, is just re-education, because you go out into these environments and they've had things that have been taught generationally from colleges that, I hate to get too I'm not conspiracy, but these colleges are paid from these companies that have products to sell. So they're really just fronts that where they're getting they're teaching their message because that's the message that makes them money,
Yeah.
So our colleges are very tainted by that money stream.
Colleges are businesses now.
They are, yeah, absolutely, man. Everything. You know what? Everything's a business in this country.
Yep. That was I don't remember where I heard it, but someone made the statement that It must be exhausting to be any sort of adult in America because every single decision that you make has to be centered around like your profit or loss. Like every single decision now, whether it's a post on social media or where
It's
you're
all
going for
perception.
lunch.
They're master perception.
Mhm.
I call them master magicians of reality. You know, who can look the shiniest and who can look the best. You
Yeah,
know,
and that's
there's
always
people
been the
that are really
game.
good at it. You know, and it's all for sale. So you know, you pay how much money's in your budget. It's all marketing. So how do you create that shiny object for people to think you're the next thing? I mean, that's definitely the game of business that appears on larger scale. But that's okay. You know, once you learn to play it, it is what it is. You can't hate the player or
No.
hate the game. They're all what they are, right? So you learn to adjust and just
Yeah.
accept and okay, I can play too.
That, I think that's the right mindset. Like I call it that all the time. It's like by the time I'm done playing the game, I want to have this, this, and this, because then it's not the important thing in life to me.
Right,
Like,
absolutely.
Like I look at my business as a game. Like it is my life because there's a mission behind it.
Right.
But like the actual business aspects, it's like all right, like can we bring on this many clients and make it work?
Mm-hmm.
Like what pieces do we do? Like it's like if you broke down all of the pieces and put them on like a board, and you're like, this is everything you have to do. You would look at it, you're like, all right, this is a game.
Yeah, it is a game.
Like,
That's
can
why
I
I eat
do better
mushrooms
than the
because
other
I can
people?
play with the board.
Hooray, mushrooms!
And when I'm on there, you know, I sit on my mushrooms and I look at the board and I place my pieces where I want to place them in. And it's the game.
That is the game. It is such a fun game.
It's a beautiful game, though. It's fun, you know. I mean, it's all here for the right reasons, right? I mean,
It's definitely a lot more fun once you learn that it's not gonna be like the end of your life.
don't take it so fucking serious.
Yeah,
Nothing
you
should be
know.
taken serious.
like, and then once you learn that you get to choose who you do business with, like, it's like, yeah, you get to choose your teammates. Like, I only do business with people that I enjoy being
Yeah,
around.
I don't.
I don't care how much they're gonna pay me. If they make my life hard, I'll walk away from it in a heartbeat.
Well, eventually they quit coming in. If you've done enough inner work, you don't. They go bye bye. They're gone. You gotta You gotta find yourself
They
first.
just don't feel. There is kind of a natural barrier there.
Yeah, I think it creates an armor. Eventually, you do all the inner work. You know, like attracts like, right?
Mhm.
So we had to attract all that shit to learn. But then once we kind of realize who we are, they go away.
Yeah, it's that your vibe attracts your tribe. Like in truth. Like,
Absolutely, man. Soul pods.
once you kind of pass that barrier, and it's only a small percentage of people that have passed it, but like I can go into an event with 200 people and find like the one or two other people that
Yeah,
have
no,
a similar mindset.
because they'll look at you eye to eye, and it's real easy to see. Everyone else is stuck on a freaking this frequency where they're just not aware, and then you see the one person who's aware. It's real easy to tell. The person who's looking around checking everything out. That's the one.
Yeah.
Most people aren't. I don't know. That's what I've noticed. It's not a judgment. It's just an observation.
I think that's
you know?
definitely true.
You
And
know? I'm there for the show. And the show's at the people and everything. It's not the music. It could be wherever I'm at. It's all the show.
the people are my favorite part.
Yeah, right.
That's-
It's it, right. My son has this really beautiful way of putting. He's like, "Yeah, Dad." So, this is my 19-year-old kid, right? And he's like, "Yeah, Dad. We're either So we're born, and some people, think we're just extra, you're extras and you're in a movie, but you're extras." He's like, "But then when you remember you're the main character, shit gets real." And I'm like, "That's fucking pretty good, kid. Like, take notes, man." So, yeah, I think it's true. And it's that once you remember, you are an extra. You're an effect until you realize, no, I'm a cause, and I'm not the extra. I'm the main character, man. What are we going to do? Let's have fun. This is a video game.
That's exactly. It's that stupid quote, like, be the change that you want to see.
I'm not stupid. I love that. It's one of my favorites.
But it's so
powerful.
It's so true.
Yeah,
Like if
just
you want
be it.
something to change, just
Become it.
be that change.
Yeah. It's a powerful hologram we live in.
Exactly. It's because everything in this world is just action and reaction.
Yep.
And if you want something to be, you need to create a reaction based upon your action. It's that simple.
Yeah. I mean, that's still in duality, though. I think in singularity and grace, everything just is. I think you can rise above that.
I think so. I think that the action and reaction lives in the constant ebb and flow of the universe.
Yeah, true.
And kind of its natural fight to be in the balance.
Kind of the universal law.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess the more centered you stay in it, the less you see that.
Mm-hmm.
And everything just sort of unfolds, But yeah, it's true. I guess everything does have to. And we do live in duality. Unfortunately, I don't know. This is where it gets to a point of. I could go down some wormholes right now.
Maybe we should do some mushrooms and do another podcast about the duality of everything.
You know, the problem with that, it's not a problem. My first 3 to 4 hours, I'm just gone, and it's an inner journey. So you wouldn't get anything out of me except for maybe some
That's
giggles,
fair.
maybe some cries, maybe, some. But after that, I'm good. So I can prep 4 hours and then
Yeah,
start talking.
yeah,
I'd love that
we'll go on a
actually.
little journey
I have a
and
lot
then
to say.
come-
The
come
next
out
4
after.
hours, I have a lot to say, to be quite frank. But
That might be what we have to do.
all right,
Oh,
I'm down.
yeah.
Sign me up, brother.
Right. Fuck. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. Where would people be able to find more information or to be able to connect with you if they want to learn about?
Honestly, I'm kind of an interesting one. We do have a website. I haven't popped it up yet. Most of my work, honestly, just comes from being in the, whatever flows in and attracts in. To be honest, I don't really advertise. I don't really do too much.
So what he's saying is, if you're interested in his line of work, comment on this or send me a message, and we can get you connected.
Yeah, probably is the best way to go. I'm actually, I have been just for shits and giggles. We're getting the Torbis. We're kind of getting the team back together. Because like I said, this was we're at the initial stages of real building this. Well, we're not building anything, honestly. I just sort of let the pieces come in and how we end up working together. It's all starting to happen. So we're in the beginning stages of that. But I was going to start an Instagram page for the company here pretty soon, maybe, possibly. I have a website. I just don't have it live. I know a lot of people might say it sounds lazy. I just don't find I really even need them, but at the end of the day, I'm just doing it because I find the more I put my thought into those things, then of course that's what tends to,
Take your time, your energy.
Well, it gives me something to focus on, which allows me to know where and what I want to create, but then they just sit there. I don't know if they're needed it or not, to be quite frank. I think, a lot of the world thinks we need a market, but I don't think you do, to be quite frank with you.
No, I think this is the most important thing, just meeting. Thank you very much today for joining me, Randall.
Yeah, brother. Thank you, man. Good
You
time.
got it.